You are a CEO of a startup that created a parental control software. Estimate the size of the market and the first year revenue for the product. So, this is a product execution question. Um, that's where this fell on the Google side. And while they call it that, there's many aspects to it, right? They're asking you to estimate the size of a market, so it's an estimation question. Sorry, my bad. They're asking you to estimate the revenue, the forecast revenue forecast. They're asking you to create a forecast revenue. So you've got to understand pricing, or you've got to estimate some pricing to get there. So that's the context in which I started with pricing to start with, because it's very normal for them to ask like, hey, tell me how this revenue is going to scale, or how the market, the product is going to go. And so for all of these, you need pricing. It's a core component, right? That competency is needed, and so that's why I started with that. Before I jump straight into let's go to a product execution or a product sense or any of these questions. Okay? So, what are the things you want to think about when you're answering such questions? For a specific ask here, like they're saying, hey, estimate the size of the market. There's different things you want to think of. So a few good things you want to think about is, do you want to do top down? Do you want to do bottom up? How do you even estimate the size of the market? In this example, I'm saying like, hey, I'd like to do a top down. It just keeps us easy, right? Like, and as part of these product execution, or assumptions, estimation questions, there are assumptions you'll have to make. There are like saying like the world's population is 7 billion, or something like the US population is 300 or 330 million, and such. Those are okay assumptions to make, but if you're trying to make assumptions around like, hey, I'm going to say like this is a 5% increment. When you make those assumptions, those need to be spelled out, right? And where I'm going is, even before I go there, let me just apply this principle to myself. Let me be systematic in my narration here. So you want to have a very systematic response. What they're looking for is not whether or not you give them the right market size. What they're looking for is not whether you'll tell them whether it's profitable or not profitable. They're not really looking for the right answer. That is never the motivation behind these questions, right? They're looking to see, do you have a good structure? Would you be able to narrate a structure, narrate yourself in a way which is super structured, something that you could apply to a different scenario, and most likely you'd end up with a good result. Good or a bad result, that's different, but you'll end up with a result, something which is very structured. That's what they're trying to see. Like, would you be able to explain to them how your thinking evolves one step at a time? Are you even able to tell them ahead of time, like, hey, this is everything I plan on doing? And as you step into the process, you're saying, okay, this was the first of the 10 steps, this is the second of the 10 steps, and so on. So that systematic approach is what they're looking for. So don't underestimate the importance of laying out a structure in your narratives. Okay. This was the next one that I was talking about. When you're calling out your assumptions, make sure you actually give enough rationale, right? If you're saying like, hey, this is a 5% increase, I'm going to assume a 5% increase here. I'm going to say like this will be 30% of the total. Whatever your assumptions are, yeah, it's okay to make assumptions as long as you can back it up with some decent data. And the point is, you've got to back it up with some data, and then you've got to make it clear to the interviewer as to why you made that assumption and what's the rationale for that. That's what they're testing. They're understanding your intuition capabilities. If you need to make assumptions, how would you assume? How would you go about making that assumption? Okay, but don't just make an assumption, throw a number out there, and say, okay, because this will be 5%, I'm going to imply this, and you just go with building on it. You're going to lose them almost immediately. Okay. Another thing, I mean, I've spoken to a few people previously in different settings, but I've always emphasized on customer empathy and customer obsession. Those are like key things in today's world, especially in this COVID world where everything's virtual. You've got to empathize with the other person, especially since it's all virtual, right? So how do you empathize? How do you show that empathy? One good easy way is just listen to the other person, right? Give the other person an opportunity to speak, seek their feedback and all that. So you want to bring that same thinking into your interviews, right? So have from time to time, don't just think of this as you being given a question and you have to run to the end. That is definitely the goal, but you want to do it in a way where you're bringing or taking the interviewer along with you on that journey, right? It's got to be collaborative. The more you can demonstrate empathy by and customer obsession, right? Like I said, customer obsession is listening to your customers, seeking feedback, and all that. Demonstrate that in action, right? Make sure before you jump to the next one, have checks with them and ask like, hey, is this making sense? Like the next set of things is this, and this is what I plan to do. Do you want me to go there, or do you want me to elaborate further on something that we just discussed? Ask them all of those questions. Confirm that you're going down the right path before you proceed any further. And if needed, let them navigate you wherever they want, right? End of day, they're testing you for 45 minutes. Give them the opportunity. Don't just run away on a path that you think is right. Right? And lastly, summarize. So, step one is about asking clarifying questions. I'm a strong believer that the more clarifying questions you ask up front, the better it becomes later on, right? Because when you're making assumptions, you may even set in some assumptions that you weren't thinking about, or you may have some right. So ask as many clarifying questions as you can. It's okay. You can say, "Hey, I've got take to start with. You're going to take a few minutes to think through how you want to approach it and all that. As part of that, lay out your clarifying questions. If you have 10 clarifying questions, just say that up front. Like, yeah, I have 10 clarifying questions. I'd like to get answers on all of these before I proceed. And then I'll tell you what my structure would be, how I plan to address this part and blah blah blah. Right? So in this situation, I just laid out a few clarifying questions that I would have asked. There's probably many more that make a lot of sense. But for the purpose of this example illustration, here are a few sample questions. I want to understand what is the vision of the company. What are some specific goals around market share and profitability? The reason I want to understand that is I want to understand what are they trying to do. Like, okay, it's a turn-to software company. What's his vision? He just wants to gain market share and get out in 2 years. If that's the case, I'm happy to offer it at super subsidy. Everyone's going to come buy my product because I'm going to gain market share because I'm offering it at a super discount. If that's market share is my only thing, there you go. I got market share, and then I'll be a prime acquisition target. Again, I'm less than extreme. No one's gonna do that, but I'm just saying, like, there's different ways, right? Understand what the motivation is. Is it profitability? Is it revenue? Is it market share? Is it something else? Becoming the best? I don't know. Right? Uh, Again, I've thrown out some sample answers. It could be something like they want to gain market share. That's my priority, not profitability. And I want to make the internet better. That's what it, again, all these question answers, I've just thrown them there for what I've made up. But the question, the actual original question itself is true. All of this is what I made up. You know, I would want to understand the marketplace and the competition. Am I, because that determines how I price my product. That determines how much of the market I can capture. That determines how my revenue forecast would be. Right. For me to compete, I need to know where I'm competing. If I don't understand where I'm competing and I just jump into like, okay, this is how I go do it, this is how I, then you just miss the whole boat. You don't even understand where you're competing, right? In the real world, if you are trying to launch something, would you not take some time to understand who your competition is? So keep yourself in the same place. Don't think of this as an interview, but think of it as, if I'm doing this in the real world, what do I want to know? And so let's say the answer here is we've got some differentiation, and for that reason, we have some good ways to penetrate. And I just throw out something called one-click install. I don't know what that means, but let's say that's the product differentiation. Yeah. I would understand the product itself, right? What is the product? Why is it? Why am I introducing this product? Well, is it like in this case, it's a software product. So am I making it only for desktops? Am I making it for mobile? Is it who would use it? Is it on CD? Understanding the product will help me better infer what mechanisms I would have for GTM, right? So it's again, those are some key reasons why I would ask these clarifying questions. I also want to understand the target customers. Who am I even selling to? If I don't even understand who the customer segment is, how do I even estimate the market size, right? So it's okay to ask, and someone you may say like, hey, anyone who could benefit from our parental control software is your customer. Do so there you go. And understanding the target geographies, because again, when I'm saying estimate the market size, am I talking global? Am I talking regional? Am I just talking in my city? Where am I trying to launch? Right? It's an internet-based product. Global's okay, but that's for later. So let's launch in the US. So for the context of this narration, I'm saying let's keep the story limited to the US. Okay. And another very important question to ask as part of your clarifying questions is understand the constraints in which you're operating, right? Let's say I ask a question and the guy responds saying there are no financial people constraints. So that gives me some degrees of freedom to operate. Does that if I have no financial constraints, maybe I can have a good sales team that could operate and sell my product. Or maybe I could have good developers that could come in and create new product features. Right. So all of these help me understand what. So this is a really important question to ask. I would also try and understand the customer experience itself. Like, what is the customer experience going to look like? How are they procuring the software? Do they have to stand in line to get it? Do they have to just get it as an installable? Like, without that understanding, again, there may be constraints. So again, so I'm not going to go too deep into the other ones. Oh yeah, the next one was purchase experience. Again, understanding how the customers are paying for that, that's a key thing, because that influences how my product pricing plays in, right? Like typically, if you're paying for something month over month versus a yearly subscription, you could offer discounts. So that thinking is going to come in. Packaging, you may just say, go figure out what's the right packaging. GTM expectations, you may just say, go figure out, tell me what the right GTM strategies are. Lastly, timelines. How soon do I need it, right? In this case, it's okay, but let's say my question was, hey, you're the CEO, you've been tasked to go create this feature for Facebook, yeah. And if the answer was like you go down a path where you're saying, okay, I'll build this, and to Sunit's point very earlier in the call, if my timeline is I want to get this like tomorrow, then my only option is to really go buy someone else, right? In which case I just missed the entire question. I didn't even go down the path of build versus buy. If the interviewer wanted me to go down the path of build versus buy, and then he wanted me to go down the path of buy, but I just went down the path of build, I just totally bombed the question. Right? So understanding timelines would help this a little, and then you could strategically ask more questions. But again, these are a few that at a bare minimum should be on your mind when you're doing product execution, products, and sort of questions. Okay.
Other assumptions that you can think of, like reporting, identity management, or logging service operations as well.
Want to become a software engineer at Google? You can, like thousands of our students. You just need to learn from those who've already cleared FANG interviews. At Interview Kickstart, our interview prep courses are developed and taught live by 150 plus instructors from Tier 1 companies like Google and Facebook. Our courses are tailored to help you crack software engineering domain interviews, including back-end, full stack, machine learning, embedded systems, data science, and more. To learn more, book your free webinar slot today